And welcome back to Manufacturing Matters Jackson podcast with Jeff Drushal and Mandi Herzberg. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I will tell you, like, I know we just talked about that, but that video I thought it was, like these videos are always really good, and it's something that makes us proud to be able to showcase. I mean, the whole point of this podcast, right, was to be able to show podcast TV show now, right? The whole point was to be able to showcase, highlight, celebrate manufacturing. But like I saw that video, I'm like, gosh, that was really good.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. David sent it to me to review it not too long ago, and when I watched it, and even when I watched it now, like it gave me butterflies, like looking at not only because looking at our shop from the outside in, and just seeing all the things we had going on was, an achievement for us to look back at. But, it was formatted in such a great way that it, gave me butterflies and made me feel like very, proud of what we've built and proud of how great of a job that video is. And I hope it, brings excitement to other people as well.
That's awesome.
So, Jeff, I want to talk a little bit about how you started at the Career Center. And I know because, we've had a relationship for a long time about growing up and your interests working with your hands. So can you tell us a little bit about what that has looked like and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Okay, yeah. So I think my story is a little funny looking back at it, but I used to, when I was I think I was 12 or 13, I always liked messing with stuff for one, and then one day I saw this lowrider bicycle that somebody had built, and they took a Schwinn bike and cut it and modified it and did all this weird stuff, and I was so intrigued, and so I kind of started getting into doing that, and then just taking bikes and taking them apart and putting other parts to the bike on it, and then I got in high school, and I had shop class, and I noticed we had other tools I had at my disposal in shop class, so I got my teacher to show me how to heat up the forks and twist them and make them all crazy, and so I just kind of got deeper and deeper and deeper, and so honestly I wasn't a prime student for English and other classes, so I was very intrigued on getting out of normal school and going to the Career Center and doing something with my hands, and I went to the Career Center for heat and air conditioning, and we started working through that, and we got to the welding portion. I just kept playing with the welders, and the whole class kept moving on, and I stayed right there, and then eventually my teacher approached me and was like, hey, we have welding here, and I did not know that, so then I transferred over to the welding program, and it just was this light bulb that went off, and I had all these visions of all these things I could do once I understood that I was able to do that. People look at things in this world and they tell themselves they can't make it. Well, nothing in this world is ever imported for outer space, so I have that vision that no matter what it is, we're going to make it, we'll figure it out. And so going to the Career Center, it kind of opened my eyes that that I could do that, and so then I kind of got into working on cars and putting hydraulics on cars and doing all sorts of things. So it kept me, very involved in the fabrication portion, and I didn't even know fabricating was a job. And so at the Career Center, they got me set up on co-op, working at Fabrication Services as a co-op student, and I just kind of escalated from there, and that's how I got here now, I guess.
I mean, what an amazing answer, first off, right? But I would also say that we should license this clip from this show to the Career Center as their marketing piece to why a student should go to the Career Center and why that sort of technical education is important. So I suppose right now we should say that Manufacturing Matters Jackson reserves all rights, copyrights, infringements, permission for Major League Baseball, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
To be able to use that. So I think we just figured out how to make money off of this podcast, show, right? So thank you, Jeff. You mentioned the bicycles. I remember the first time I came out to your shop, walking outside back behind your building and seeing the bicycle pieces. But you still utilize those bicycles, right? Don't you do that with some of the parades and that kind of thing, and parade floats?
Yeah. So in two different ways. So we do this pub crawl in Jackson, and we do this pub crawl. We go to bunch of different bars, and you have to pay an entry fee to be in our pub crawl. And we take that money and we donate it to somebody who's like say if you have cancer, we narrow it down to a person. We buy them like $1,000 in different gift cards. It's a way for us to like give direct money to somebody. But so anyway, so at that pub crawl, I always try to make like these just crazy exotic bikes. Every pub crawl's themed. So like one year it was cartoons, so I made the Flintstone Mobile out of a 3-wheel bike, and my wife and daughter rode in it, and I had like I had like cow fur, everything. It was pretty wild. But and then so the Jackson Holiday Parade, we don't use bikes, but we definitely make some pretty exotic floats for that as well. But
Yeah, usually if you want to stay warm that day, you have to be on,
you're right on
your
our float.
I was gonna say, don't you incorporate some fire and things like that?
Yeah,
Just
yep.
a little bit.
Just a little
Just
bit.
a little bit.
Yep.
You
So
see,
we've tried to put on the greatest metal show on earth, and I feel like we do. I mean, we take metal and we mix it with art. We make functioning theatrical metal art with our Christmas parade.
we need to have Jeff send us some photos of some of that art, and I don't know if we would be able to integrate that into this podcast to be able to show some of those photos on there. David, is that something we can make possible? Awesome. So if you could send us some of that would be great to be able to show those on screen right when you're talking, because I mean, it's, I the manufacturing piece is awesome. That's why we're here, right? But like hearing you talk about that art, like you can see and you can feel it when you start talking about it. Like you know that's a passion of yours, right? And so it's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, when we put a lot of time and money into our floats, and it's the only return we ever expect out of the Christmas parade and doing this is we want to inspire at least one kid. And because if we don't start inspiring these kids, we're not going to have any manufacturing. And we all grew up with TV repair guys. We grew up with if your alternator went out, you could change it with a Crescent wrench. Now none of that exists, so kids aren't getting inspired at an early age. And so that's kind of why we put so much effort into, especially this Christmas or holiday parade, is to try to inspire at least one kid. So I mean, there's a lot of kids that get forgotten about in this world. I mean, you got all the kids that have struggle in reading and struggle in writing, and a lot of those kids get forgotten about because they kind of get pushed off to the side. When if they get inspired to do something with their hands, they could have a great life and they could find their way. I was a lost child at one time too, until I found welding and fabricating.
Mandi, we like to highlight women in manufacturing. So tell us, how did you get started, and what made you want to work for Jeff?
Well, I was always an alternative student when I grew up, and I decided I wasn't going to have a normal job. I wasn't going to go to college. I wanted to be an artist, and then I discovered that you could be a metal artist. And I was like, that's really cool. What a flex. So I found a way to do some interning with a local artist here, Steven Sales. So I worked with him for over 10 years, learning about design and artistry and skills as far as knowing what colors work together and like decorating spaces. That career path kind of went on a different route when Jeff opened up his facility. I had decided that I needed to stick strictly with working with metal and not so much doing like interiors as I was at the time. And I'm very happy I made that decision.
What types of projects are you working on? I mean, are you getting to use that artistic ability that you're passionate about on some of those types of projects?
Yeah, Jeff involves me in a lot of the design of the sculptures and picking out colors for things, and we bounce a lot of ideas off of each other.
That's awesome.
I've never met somebody that can look at a color and be like, it could be like that green right there, and I could ask Mandi, to pick out a color. She'd be like, well, that doesn't have enough pink in it. And I've never met anybody that can like look at a color and understand what pigments of individual colors it makes to make those colors. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that's one of her great traits, is being able to color match, and it's it's insane listening to her when she starts getting into the colors and the pigments and stuff. But yeah.
Thank God that people can do that, because I do not possess that ability.
Me either. I will not take credibility for picking out colors.
I can barely pick out the clothes that I put on every day. So.
Yeah.
Mandy, can you tell our listeners, and especially maybe girls that are watching the show, how you can be successful as a woman in manufacturing? You know, sometimes it's difficult when you go into a facility; it's male dominated, and it can be intimidating for girls, right? So, how have you adjusted and really made your way in this field?
Well, women fill a very specific role in the manufacturing community because they have a different way of thinking and processing information. We tend to be inherently more emotionally thoughtful, and we are very detail oriented. So we bring a lot to the table as far as those things go. Also, kind of having a softer touch with dealing with customers and other employees, because we kind of smooth things out and give everything a little bit more of a rounded edge. I think that women are essential for balance.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I remember used to do like the women in welding program,
Right.
and something that even stuck out to me. I will say, this last year at our manufacturing day trade show, the 2025 trade show, you had set up the welding outside, and
Right.
you were like, I can teach people to weld. My entire staff went outside and picked up a welder for the first time in their
Right.
life. I was a little bit afraid about that because, one, in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, they're here on work. Please don't burn yourself. And then the other side of that is, I hope they like it and want to do it as art and not switch careers.
Yeah. Keep it as a hobby, please.
As a hobby.
Right.
Next time we'll sign a confidential agreement that we will not hire your
You
employees.
cannot leave. You
Yeah,
cannot leave
yeah.
your current position. So no, I think that's great. But one of the other thoughts I wanted to talk about was, obviously I got to know you a little bit through seeing your art and then reaching out to you. But the first time I actually met you, you had come to one of our Jackson County Brownfields Redevelopment Authority meetings.
Correct.
With Ben.
Yep.
Because you had utilized some of our programs. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, when purchasing our building, there's some very important steps you have to take, and one of them is, the contamination. A, making sure it's not been highly contaminated, and B, coming up with a plan if it is contaminated. And, these are all things that I had learned really fast when I started the process of purchasing this property. And so, Ben luckily had worked on with another client and had some experience. So, him and I kind of worked together and worked with you guys, and we filed for grants, and you guys helped us with funding to get the proper testing of our soil and to come up with game plans. When you purchase things, there's always a hidden cost, and when it comes to testing your property, that's a hidden cost that it's very hard to absorb that cost. And so with the brownfield, it was a huge asset for us, because we probably would have never been able to buy the building, because all of our money would have been consumed by soil sampling. And so it was a great thing for us. It was a great tool for us. And we learned a lot about the contaminations and what certain things do to the ground. And so not only did we walk away with grant money to help with our testing, we also learned about why things get polluted and how to prevent pollution. One being that I think the biggest oversight I've ever had with pollution is when you work in a shop and you constantly are washing grease off your hands, and if you have a septic tank, all that, or if you have a drain field, all that grease and dirt is going right in the ground. You would never think of it, but if you're on city water, it goes and gets treated. But when you're not on city water, you're polluting the ground just by washing your hands every day, or so learning all those things that helped us be more conscious of keeping our earth clean and safe too.
Now that's great. And so just for our listeners or our viewers, under contract, Accelerate Jackson County manages the Jackson County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And so Jeff had come forward as a potential project for us, and it was something that we could make work. And it ends up being great because we were able to use some EPA funds that we had, use our environmental engineering firm that we have under contract to make sure that Jeff, one, didn't put himself into a bad spot by buying a building and then putting his name on it, and then becoming liable for things that he didn't have anything to do with, but
Right.
then also that education piece and the remediation. And so it's a win on brownfield remediation, and it was a win for you guys, right?
yeah.
Because
Yep.
ultimately it helped you, keep that journey going from this to this to this to now in this building that you're already outgrowing again,
Right, yeah.
right? So
Yep.
Jeff, I know one of the big projects that you guys work on and you really want to see it grow is the butterfly.
Yes.
So tell us about the butterfly.
Okay, so I guess I should have listed that earlier as one of my top projects, but I forgot to.
in my defense, I did tee you up with the butterfly.
yeah, you did. And again, like I said, sometimes I forget about what we've done. But no, the butterfly project, I never would put myself as a butterfly lover until I was approached by a lady out in Hanover who started a butterfly garden, and she wanted to put a bench in for her butterfly garden. And I always seen these murals of angel wings. I always thought they were cool, and I always wanted to make like super big, huge metal ones, just to be different. And so when she approached me, you see a butterfly bench everywhere, and so I pitched the idea of making butterfly wings instead of a bench. And during the process of her and I talking, she, explained to me how crucial it is for the butterflies to, start being populated again, because they're dying off at a rapid rate. The farmers out west kill all the milkweed, and that's what they depend on, and so they migrate so far and they can't make it. And so long story short, I started kind of coming up with this idea of how cool it would be to follow the migration path of the butterflies with these butterfly wings. And so you can basically, go to like a sanctuary or go anywhere and get your picture with, or, take a picture with the butterfly if you're a butterfly. And, we would take whatever the sale of the butterfly is and donate some of that money to, a local sanctuary or anything. And it'd be cool to make that migration from here all the way down to Mexico, where the forest is where all the butterflies migrate to. So far we've got one in Asheville, North Carolina. We should be doing one in Oklahoma this summer. We got one in Perrysburg, Ohio. We've got 3 in Jackson, and so every single butterfly has its own personality. It has its own name. Mandi and I hand paint every single one. It's a fun, unique project that we've been doing for a year and a half now, I think. So
Really cool.
yeah, it's there's a lot of weird things that have always happened when we did this butterfly project, and the lady that I originally did the first one with, it took me the longest to do it because I had to design it and figure out how I wanted to do it. And so she was kind of getting a little impatient, and her husband kept telling her, he's an artist, he'll get it done. He's an artist, he'll get it done. And so one day I sent her a message that said, hey, your butterfly's done. And she replied with, my husband just passed away today. So I'm going to need a couple of days before we can install. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because in so many cultures, the butterfly represents rebirth and so many different things. And it was just so ironic that he reassured her that this butterfly was going to be done one day, and it just happened to be done on the day he passed away. And so it was and there's been a couple other instances where when we were working on a butterfly, we've had some just strange, I don't want to say spiritual, but it's been just some cool, ironic stories. Not that it was cool that he passed away, but it's just when you start learning about butterflies and some of the ancient spiritual things of them, it all kind of ties into each other. So
I can't think of any other way to end the podcast.
Me neither.
mic drop.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I insist.
I just want to say thank you for joining us on
Yeah.
Manufacturing Matters Jackson. It was great having you. I think we could continue this conversation for hours.
Oh yeah.
And you guys do a lot of great projects. So
Thank you.
thank you for what you do in our community.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate being part of it.
Appreciate it.